Next to the war in Ukraine, the country's Air Force says Russia has launched its largest single drone and missile attack since its full-scale invasion 3 years ago. Officials say 728 Russian drones were fired into Ukraine overnight. The latest attacks also included 13 cruise or ballistic missiles. The prime focus of the attack was the northwestern city of Lutsk. It's a transit hub for military and humanitarian aid coming from Poland. The Lutsk region's head said efforts were underway to put out fires at the warehouse of an unspecified enterprise as well as in garages. No information about fatalities has been reported. However, several civilians have been killed during the overnight attack in the eastern and southern regions of Ukraine. Well, President Zelensky has posted on social media reacting to what he called the new massive Russian attack on our cities. In his post, he called it a telling attack that comes precisely at a time when so many efforts have been made to achieve peace, to establish a ceasefire, and yet only Russia continues to rebuff them all. He added this is yet another proof of the need for sanctions. All this comes as President Trump has indicated he's running short of patience with Russia's President Putin. Mr. Trump had suggested a deal to stop the fighting in Ukraine was possible, but he had this to say during his cabinet meeting on Tuesday.
We're not happy with Putin. I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people. We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Zana Bespiachuk from BBC Ukraine is in Kiev and has this assessment of the overnight Russian strikes.
This strike was so far the biggest in terms of the number of drones that were launched by Russia against different locations and cities in Ukraine. It looks like this strike was basically focused on the critical infrastructure of Ukraine and military infrastructure. But again, for now, it's hard to assess the full impact. For example, in Kyiv, we didn't sleep almost. It was a sleepless night, and we heard explosions almost for hours. But again, we already learned to differentiate a bit when the impact is mostly focused on the residential areas, and when it's more about the targeting of the infrastructure. So it looked like this attack was directed against the infrastructure. And yes, it was the attack that mainly was directed against the western Ukrainian cities and also some central cities, which are, as you mentioned, hubs for the humanitarian and military aid that Ukraine receives from Europe and from US. They're very important in terms of logistics. We again see that Russia already is making even worse attacks than it was expected, because previously there was such an opinion that if it uses around 500 drones against Ukraine within one night, it won't be possible for Ukrainian air defense to cope with that. And we had that night already 728 drones, which much more. And it's a matter of life and death for Ukraine now, whether it gets more interceptors for Russian drones and missiles, and whether it gets more anti-air defense systems.